B332.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to pipe replacement, I am informed by the CWA that major pipe replacement works are normally carried out under capital projects. However, some pipes are also replaced under the CWA framework agreements for minor works, as well as under sewerage projects implemented by the Wastewater Management Authority and road infrastructure projects of the NDU. I am further informed by the CWA. To date, the CWA has disbursed an amount of 2.799 billion rupees for the replacement of 371.3 kilometers of pipes under its capital projects and framework agreements for minor works. An additional of 96.5 kilometers of pipes have also been replaced during the same period under projects implemented by the Wastewater Management Authority and the National Development Unit, as well as in-house by the CWA, and in respect of which the CWA has only supplied the pipes. Moreover, 29.49 kilometers of pipes have also been replaced under the Metro Express project. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am making arrangements for the information on the pipe replacement costs borne by the CWA on a yearly basis since January 2014 to date be placed in the Library of the National Assembly. As regard Part B of the question, I am informed by the CWA that non-revenue water refers to unaccounted water losses that can be classified into physical and apparent losses. The physical losses are real water losses through old and leaking pipes, whereas apparent losses relate to commercial losses associated mainly with inaccurate meter readings and water pilferage. I am also informed that the level of non-revenue water has been examined under several studies carried out since 1999. However, due to difficulties to establish the baseline data, the exact figures of water losses are not available as such. I am further informed that the CWA has calculated the actual percentage of non-revenue water to be around 60% based on water production and water sales figures.
Mr. Speaker, sir, in answer to PQ which I asked on the 10th of April 2018 on non-revenue water, the then Deputy Prime Minister also gave the figure of 60% as non-revenue water, so water that is being lost. So does the Honourable Minister find it normal that we are called upon to spend billions of rupees and there is absolutely no improvement in non-revenue water?
Yes, I have also asked the same question to the CWA, because they have invested, like I said earlier, some 2.799 billion rupees, but it was for the replacement of 371.3 kilometers of pipe. The information which I have been given is that we have to replace some 1,570 kilometers of pipe out of 4,000 kilometers. That is 23%. We should have had at least a small decrease in the level of non-revenue water. But this is not the case. This is not the case because, first, there are several factors which have to be taken into consideration while calculating the non-revenue water. Then there were measures in addition to replacement of pipes which should have been implemented. For example, water network management, monitoring of the system, and also transfer of know-how to the workers, employees of the CWA. These issues have not been taken into consideration. And what I've also been told, that there was a non-revenue water unit which was functional, but it was dismantled in 2017. So the figures that have been provided to me, I've requested them to rework the figures so that we have a clear indication, not only on the non-revenue water throughout the island, but in the different zones where we have water network around the island.
I thank the Honourable Minister for his honest answer, which shows how incompetent his predecessor was. May I know from the Honourable Minister, in answer to the same PQ, the Honourable then Deputy Prime Minister stated, and I quote, that I am making a formal proposal for a private sector operator to be appointed on a 15 years affirmage contract. So his solution was to privatize and have it carried out by a private company for 15 years. Is the Honourable Minister going to confirm whether government is still going ahead with this affirmage contract or this plan is being revisited?
Mr. Speaker, sir, in the same question that the Honourable Member is referring to, he also acknowledged that, and I quote, that the problem is that for years and years, CWA, despite having all the money, all the fundings, has not been able to reduce the non-water revenue. So we are almost on the same wavelength. But with regard to the affirmage, this will be discussed in the future, not now.
Is the Honourable Minister satisfied that CWA has the necessary equipment to detect water losses for water that is for broken pipes beneath the surface of land?
This is why in my reply I said non-revenue water is not only renewal of asset, that is replacement of pipes or repairing active leakages. There are other issues which have to be dealt with. The Honourable Member will appreciate that I'm new in that ministry and we are right now looking into all that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next question. Honourable Utteem.
B 533.
I'm informed that stock of the following items as of date is as follows. Disposable surgical mask, 11,235,050 units. Specialized mask, 2,226,116 units. Sterile gowns, 4,449 units. Non-sterile gowns, 405,258 units. Disposable gloves, 31,221,300 units. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm also informed that the number of items purchased over the period of March 2020 to date are disposable surgical mask, 10,841,650 units, specialized mask, 2,138,026 units, sterile gowns, 2,010 units, non-sterile gowns, 394,168 units, disposable gloves, 30,939,100 units. Now, for the period of March 2020 to date, the following items have been utilized. Surgical mask, 3,169,057 units. Specialized mask, 11,693 units. Gowns, 153,499 units. Gloves, 5,525,770 units. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also wish to inform the House that during the outbreak of the pandemic, my ministry has issued masks and personal protective equipment, among others, to Ministry of Social Integration, Social Security and National Solidarity, Ministry of Tourism, Police Department, Prison Department, and National Empowerment Foundation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm also informed that my ministry has provided masks and other protective equipment to Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change in a spirit of solidarity in the context of oil spillage at Blue Bay during the weekend. As regard to Part B of the question, the following persons, among others, are eligible for masks and other personal protective equipment. Worksman class of my ministry, it's 4,759. Medical and paramedical staff, 2,206. Nursing cadre, 5,147. Non-medical staff, 1,205, among others.
Mr. Speaker, from the figures given by the Honourable Minister, it would appear that more than 70%, most of this 70% of the disposable masks, the special masks that were ordered, purchased, has not been utilized, more than 70%. So does that, does the Honourable Minister finding normal that we've been spending almost ₹1 billion buying masks for them to be stale?
Mr. Speaker, sir, let me remind the House that at the beginning of the pandemic, WHO predictions for Mauritius would be one of the countries which will be severely hit. From that prediction, Mauritius, with a population of 1,265,303, so the prediction was that we are going to have 87,424 cases of mild infection. Moderate infections would be 87,424. Severe infection would be 1,005. Critical infection would be 358. And the death would be 837, with the number of admissions going up to 20,345. This is the beginning of the WHO prediction. This is what the ministry has been doing based on that prediction, the worst case scenario, and that planning has been done to acquire all the equipment.
So the Honourable Minister has just indicated that this panic buying was as a result of providing masks to the whole population, because obviously there's only around 10,000 staff that is given.
Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no panic buying. I have to remind the honourable member that at the time when the pandemic started from China, there has been strict follow-up of the recommendations of the WHO. There was no panic buying. No one at that time predicted that this pandemic would have such a consequence. There is no panic. Timely intervention has been done. I wish to remind him again.
Thank you. With respect to this excess stock of masks, 70%, well, you've mentioned there's 10 million surgical masks, there's 2 million special masks for only 10,000 users. Okay? So is the Honourable Minister considering selling those masks to the public or to other governmental organizations to recoup some of the excessive spending on these masks?
Mr. Speaker, sir, first of all, I don't agree that there is an excess of equipment, especially when those equipments are being used for our frontliners. And secondly, if for the last 3-4 months we have already used between 20 to 30% of the weak equipment, and we are still in a pandemic situation, there is no question of distributing to whoever.
Next question.
B 534.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that following the collapse of the ex-BAI Mauritius Company Limited in early 2015, government decided that the super cashback gold policyholders and the Brahma Asset Management Limited investors repay their capital or investments either fully or partly, depending on the amount of the capital or investments according to established repayment criteria. In this context, the National Property Fund Limited was set up in May 2015 with the primary objective to repay the super cashback gold holders, policyholders, and the Brammer Asset Management Limited investors. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part A of the question, I'm informed that the NPFL has till date met its obligations towards the super cashback gold policyholders and Brammer Asset Management Limited investors. As regards the other obligations, they are backed by a government guarantee and are being repaid as and when required. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part B of the question, as I mentioned in my reply to Parliamentary Question B34 at the sitting of 5th May 2020, the NPFL has already started the process of disposing its assets in terms of immovable properties. I'm informed that at that date, action has already been initiated for the disposal of a plot of land situated at Flic-en-Flac of an extent of 3,395.68 square meters.
The Honourable Minister just answered a few minutes ago that the National Property Fund has not filed its accounts. So isn't it the case that the reason why the National Property Fund is unable to file its account is because the auditor are refusing to sign off because the company is insolvent?
Mr. Speaker, sir, in fact, I did reply earlier on with regard to the late filing of the accounts. The XBI group was a very complex structure, and assets that were transferred had to be reevaluated, and I'm informed by the auditors that this exercise is nearly completed, and it did take some time, but it's almost completed. That's what I've been informed, and the account should be in a position to be finalized and for filing eventually.
It's public knowledge, and there's been question in Parliament on that the Bank of Mauritius has advanced more than 3.5 billion rupees to National Property Fund Limited. May I know from the Honourable Minister whether he is satisfied that today this company, National Property Fund, has sufficient asset worth at least 3.5 billion rupees to repay the debt it owes to the central bank?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, at the level of the Ministry and the government and the NPFL, everything is being done to look at for solutions to address this issue.
B535.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Training and Employment of Disabled Persons Board is regulated by the Training and Employment of Disabled Persons Act of 1996 as amended by the Training and Employment of Disabled Persons Amendment Act of 2012. With regards to Part A of the question, we have around 1,129 persons with disabilities on our register, out of which 58 persons have registered following a communique issued by my ministry on 18th June 2020, inviting persons with disabilities to register with the board. This exercise is part of our efforts to revamp the Training and Employment of Disabled Persons Board. As at date, the Training and Employment of Disabled Persons Board has placed 300 persons with disabilities in employment in the private and parastatal sectors. I'm informed that there are persons with disabilities who are employed by the public service, as recruitment is based on merit, and the recruitment exercise is being carried out by the public service jobs. B has no record regarding the number of persons who suffer from a disability working in the public sector. As regards Part B of the question, I'm informed that on the previous register for employers, 589 companies were non-compliant with their statutory obligations for the employment of persons with disabilities. As I mentioned earlier, my ministry is currently in the process of revamping the Training and Employment of Disabled Persons Board by updating the database of persons with disabilities and employers. I have already given details regarding the register for persons with disabilities. In the same vein, we have started a new register for employers. Letters have been issued to employers requesting them to register with the Training and Employment of Disabled Persons. So far, 612 companies have responded positively. The exercise for the registration of both persons with disabilities and employers is ongoing. Furthermore, in view of the fact that the training centers at Calbas and Rosebel are now closed, and in an effort to carry on with the training courses, we have developed collaboration with the Mauritius Institute of Training and Development. As such, training sessions in housekeeping and waitering for persons with disabilities have already started.
Speaker, since as far back as 2015, I've been asking the same question to this House, to various ministers, and that is non-compliance by private sector with their statutory obligation to employ 3% of staff. So my question is very specific. What are the actions taken by the ministry against those 589 companies which are non-compliant, which are flouting the law?
Yes, I agree with you. As I have said in a previous reply, our government wants to create a more inclusive society. I must admit that the TED-PB might not have made optimum use of its resources. That's why I took the decision to look into the whole mechanism of the unit. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, some of the measures have had to be postponed. For instance, with regards to the training courses to be dispensed by the MITD. As I have said, we are revisiting. That's why we have issued communiqué to update the list of both employers and employees, and we will look into the matter and see in what ways we can encourage, sensitize companies to employ persons with disabilities.
Honourable Minister, I think we've passed the time of sensitization campaign. There is a deliberate flouting of the law, and what I expect from this Honourable Minister is to take a commitment to sue each and every company that is not employing the 3% quotas imposed by them by the law.
Well, do you think this is the moment to sue companies? Do you want me to punish companies who are not? Well, I don't think. Yes, this is your opinion. I'm not of that opinion because this is not the time.
Only the minister can answer.
Sorry about that. I am rather advocating.
You're a future minister.
You put a question. You listen to my reply, please. I am rather advocating for closer collaboration with the private sector, because, as I have said, we are looking into the whole mechanism. So I am of the view that, first of all, we have to raise awareness and encourage companies to employ persons with disabilities, because I admit that my wish also is to see to it that more people get the opportunity to be employed. But let us start by updating the list, then call the companies for collaboration, and then we will see what can be done to improve the system. But because if we start suing, this might push companies out of business for the time being. That's why I'm saying this is not the moment to sue companies because of COVID-19. Let me update the list first, and then have close collaboration with the private sector, and then if need be, we will see.
Honourable Tirang.